Do, 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 do. You like it? You like it? I guess that's like my birthday sound, right? Because I'm a Gemini, right? So we celebrate all month and we just be in here. Yes, celebrating. So welcome to another episode of Day to Day with Dorothy. I feel like I've been going live throughout the week to really just work on my sea legs. This idea of going live and getting my life in order and then getting things on point. So, of course, I am the communication strategist. I close the leadership gap through transformative interventions. That looks like public speaking, facilitation, and coaching. So I am Dorothy Enriquez, your host, and I'm here to talk a little bit about leadership, as always. And specifically, I have been thinking about this idea, and I was talking to a business owner today, and we were talking about this whole idea of like when we own these businesses and then we're ready to grow and expand, how does our leadership transition and expand when we're ready for a growth spurt? And I thought, that is a fantastic question. So while I don't want to give too many tips and then just overwhelm you, I wanted to think about 4 things that might be ideal for your consideration if you're getting ready for a growth spurt. Let me put on these spectacles so I could be ready. So look, as we're getting ready for these growth spurts, I want us to think about our leadership as always changing and ever flowing, right? And so if we subscribe to this idea that leaders are created, they're made, they're not born, then that means that we have the opportunity to shift and curate our leadership as the needs of our business organization change. So the first thing that I think is important when you're getting ready for a growth spurt, that tells me that more people are going to be coming on board. And if more people are coming on board, the first thing that I think is particularly important, especially when you've been the one overseeing everything, whether it's in your organization or it's in your own business, you want to trust your leaders. Trust them. This is so important because even if this is your business and it's your baby, it's really important for you to be able to delegate and trust your leaders to do what you've hired them to do. You've brought them on board, you are paying them a salary, you are compensating them, and you're basically saying, yes, I know that you're competent to be able to, this is distracting, I know that you're competent to be able to excel in this area of expertise that you have, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's sales, whether it's learning and development. You've brought on this manager and leader to lead this one other person or themselves or these few other people in order to help your business grow. And you can't grow exponentially if you're always micromanaging your leaders and not trusting them to do what they excel at, to do what you hired them to do. It's really important, and trust begins with trusting yourself. When we don't trust ourselves, it's almost impossible to trust other people. If we don't mean the things that we say, it's almost impossible to believe what other people are saying. So your leadership transition begins with taking that introspective look. But first, trust yourself so that you can trust your leaders and really empower them. So often in organizations, you'll hear a lot of leaders say that they're not empowered. They can't make decisions. They can't really coach and guide their people. They can't effectively develop their people. They don't have the tools that they need to do their job. And part of that comes from there being these invisible boundaries where they can only get so far, but then how much can you do? And then that causes disengagement and all of these other challenges that can occur when we're working in teams. And so if you can start by really building a business or within your organization, in your department, building a department where the leaders are trusted, then people will surprise you with their capacity, their capability, and their willingness to give it their all and truly wake up in the morning and say, What more can I do? How can I push this even further? How can we be even more innovative? How can we continue to drive for results? Secondly, as you're transitioning in your leadership, as you're preparing for a growth spurt, think about the culture. What is the culture going to be like in your department or in your small business? What's that going to look like? What kind of culture do you want to have? And there are 3 things that I'd want you to consider. So this is like subpoints if you're taking notes. So one of the things I want you to consider is this idea of creating a space where people can truly belong, not where people will assimilate. Okay? So if people are assimilating, think of it like, so they say like America is a melting pot, right? But if you're a melting pot, that kind of means that everybody has to blend together. It's like if you eat chicken soup, everything tastes like the chicken stock. The carrots taste like chicken stock, the celery tastes like chicken, the pasta tastes like chicken, everything tastes like chicken. That's like a melting pot. Everything kind of tastes the same. But if you go to like Mauritius, they are not a melting pot. They are more like a fruit salad. It all goes together. It makes sense, but the grapes taste like grapes, watermelon tastes like watermelon, strawberries taste like strawberries. And so what kind of culture do you want to create in your business? And how can we make sure that people really feel like they belong? Because when they feel like they belong, they can show up as their authentic selves. When they feel safe, they'll be able to feel like they can contribute. They'll be able to raise their hand and say, I have an idea. They'll also be able to raise their hand and say, I made a mistake, right? So people want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they're safe. And last but not least, they want to feel connected. They want to not only feel connected to the vision and mission of your department, organization, your small business, but they want to feel connected to the people that they're working with and to their leader, to be able to show up as their best selves, to be able to bring their best work to the forefront. And then when things are going awry, to be able to employ that creativity that they already have, that you already hired them for, and that curiosity, bringing that to the table and saying, I have an idea. I know how we can fix it. And part of that might be my fault, how that happened, but I have an idea. I know how we can fix it, and I know how we can 10x that. So again, as you're transitioning in your leadership, trust your leaders, but also really be deliberate and diligent about creating a culture, right? And creating this culture where people want to be, you know? There's nothing more amazing than thinking about what somebody is talking about at the dinner table. Because people talk about work at the dinner table, whether they're with their family, their kids, their friends, they're talking about work. What are they saying about your department? What are they saying about you? What are they saying about your business? So be deliberate and thoughtful about the culture that you want to be creating. Thirdly, create processes, especially if you are a business owner. Create processes that are repeatable and create processes that people can then share and make sure that other people are understanding and following. That way, it's repeatable, right? And then you don't have to be hovering over me, making sure that I'm baking this chicken just right, or making sure that I'm tying these gifts just perfectly, because there are processes and systems in place so that it's scalable, right? We want, if we're growing, we're going to have to make sure that we can scale at the same time. We don't want to be like, you know, bumbling along because we got big before we got good. So what are the processes necessary for your business to pull all the way together, snatch the edges, and be really, really tight, like a fresh new weave? And again, each business is going to have different processes, but if you're going to scale and bring people on board, you kind of can't afford to be reintroducing every single person that you bring on board every single time, whether this is in your department or this is in your small business, whatever the case may be. Those clear processes are going to set people free, because then we operate within the frame, right? Freedom within the frame, freedom within the frame. Yes, Lady S. Dot. Did I get it right this time? Because yesterday, or the day, whenever I went live, I think I said Ladis Dot, Ladies Dot, Lady S. Dot. Yes, I hope so. But she said, come on, word. We don't want to get big before we get good. And so last but not least, get a coach. Get a coach, get a coach, get a coach. And you might be thinking, why? I just said I'm going through a growth spurt. My business is growing. My department is expanding. We just increased the budget by 7 figures. Dorothy, ain't nobody got time for coaching. But here's the thing. We can't see ourselves. And as our leadership expands and transitions, guess what? We're not as good of a judge of character as we once were. And you might be thinking, oh, absolutely not. She can see right through people. Yeah, you can. But here's the thing. The higher up that you get in your business, the higher up that you get in your organization, people are doing a lot more faking. They are doing a lot more, let me show up the way I think he wants me to show up. Let me be the person I think he wants me to be. Let me say the things I think he wants me to say. They aren't always showing up completely transparent for you to be able to see right through them. And they're less likely to give you feedback. They're more likely to just talk about you around the dinner table. And so because you're not getting the honest feedback that you were getting when it was just 2 of you, and because you're not getting a lot of the insight because you're not the feet on the street anymore, the reason why you want to get a coach is because you can't see yourself. We can't always see how we're showing up, which is why we have to take the introspective look. But sometimes we need that coach to really just push through all of that ego and all of that Maybelline to say, Dorothy, no. That is not how you talk to people, or that fix your face. That is not how you show up. That is not how you get results. And you really need to consider and or think about and or develop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So by getting a coach, it allows you to really sit with, how am I showing up in this growth spurt so that I'm not downsizing in the next 6 months or the next year because I could not adapt and adjust my leadership to match the learning curve that comes with this whole idea of a growth spurt. So those are my 4 thoughts around transitioning our leadership as we get ready for a growth spurt. And that's even if we get to see the growth spurt coming. Sometimes it just lands on our head. And so these are my 4 thoughts. Trust your leaders, create a culture, create clear processes that are repeatable, that allow for scale, and get a coach. Those are my thoughts. So thank you so much for taking a quick break with me. I am Dorothy Enriquez. I am the communication strategist, and I help close the leadership gap through transformative interventions. So I will see you again soon, right? Going live is important. So I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to share on Instagram or Facebook. And if you just enjoy all of me, you will definitely enjoy my podcast that I do with a business bestie, Shayla Vernado, called The Business Besties. So if you love this, you will love that. So head on over to wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Castbox, and go ahead and download the Business Besties, where we give all the fabulous business tips. And then, of course, I come in from a leadership standpoint. So I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in and taking a short little break with me during your busy workday. I will catch you on the flip side. Have a good Thursday afternoon and dancing for you.